Hi, it's Dr. Christy Del Castillo Hagee from Fed is Best, and I'm here with Tanya Cole Strasbaugh. She's a mom, Fed is Best supporter. She's here to talk with us about her experience and what her thoughts are about infant feeding and Fed is Best. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Hi, Dr. Christy. I'm so glad to have found the organization. As a first-time mother of a newborn and then infant, I read about Fed is Best, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to connect. I have to share my experience and be a voice for the platform and for the book and advocacy, because this is my real life in real time as it's happening right now.
That's awesome. So tell me about your story. What happened with you?
I live in Pittsburgh. My husband Steve and I welcomed our baby boy 6 months ago, and we would consider ourselves incredibly medically privileged. What does that mean? My parents are physicians. They met during their residencies in Pittsburgh. I attended multiple prenatal classes. My husband attended every single appointment with me, every single scan. This was a wanted for, planned for child. I had a plan. I met with lactation consultants. I met with a pelvic floor physical therapist, all prior to delivery. I delivered a healthy baby boy at 39 weeks, 2 days after my birthday, and then we encountered feeding difficulties. And nothing in my plan or preparation or education, which I consider to be absolutely stellar, had any mention of what would happen if breastfeeding didn't go perfectly according to plan.
That's pretty much the story every single time. Go ahead. So tell me more.
Absolutely. So I met with not one, not two, not three, but 8 lactation consultants over the course of my baby's first month of life. 8. 3 in the hospital for the first 3 days before discharge. Sammy was hospitalized he went to the NICU when he was 12 hours old for low blood sugar reading due to, now we understand, poor milk transfer. I was dead set against formula because I was told it would ruin my breastfeeding journey. And after several low blood sugar readings, he was finally given formula. I was still not okay with it. And now, of course, I understand that facilitating formula, because of Fed is Best, I understand that having formula actually extends the breastfeeding journey. I'm happy to say that Sam was given formula day 1, day 2, day 3, and that to 6 months, from that day forward, from day 4 of life until he was 6 months old, he had exclusive breast milk. My milk came in, and because of self-education, I saw one of the 8 lactation consultants helped with milk transfer, weighted feeds, and pumping. And because of that, his moderate tongue tie, he was never able to transfer milk. That actually enhanced my breastfeeding journey. But an unnecessary NICU stay, unnecessary trauma, unnecessary stress, right? Yeah. Unbelievable. A supportive spouse, all these things, overeducated, and still it happened. Still it was an unnecessary NICU stay. The discharging pediatrician said to me, this NICU stay was not warranted. When your child latched for an hour and 45 minutes, that should have been a sign he wasn't getting enough nutrition.
That's exactly right. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Like the most privileged people on the planet, access to every possible resource. We are being told things that are not true. And it's putting our infants at risk and putting unnecessary cost to us as individuals and to our babies, and then suffering, right? Suffering, the baby being hungry, mom being sleep deprived, and why?
And why?
Why?
And if it can happen to me, it can happen to everyone. If I am overeducated, if my mother, who's a physician, is in the room with me saying, hey, I think the baby needs formula, but she is standing alone, where there's seas of other medical professionals telling me it will ruin your breastfeeding journey. Your child will never breastfeed again. They will have ear tubes. They will have complications. They will not be gifted. On and on and on, right? Over and over and over again. Yeah. It just was not true. It just wasn't true. And the lactation industry firmly on it has to be breastfeeding at the breast, wherein almost no education about pumping.
And confirming that baby is actually getting enough milk. And then this normalization that hunger and prolonged feeding is okay, acceptable, safe, and waiting until there's a medical complication that threatens brain development. to offer
Absolutely.
supplement. Grudgingly, of course. Oftentimes, did you have to sign an informed consent form?
I did at my baby-friendly hospital.
Your baby had a medical indication for supplemental feeds, to protect their brain, and yet you still have to sign an informed consent form that you're doing something terrible to your child, effectively. It's unbelievable. Well, that this is happening in 2024, where there is a recall on millions of cribs or bassinets or teething necklaces or any number of child care products that are putting infants at risk. And yet this condition is happening every single day. Parents aren't being told about it. Medically literate, privileged individuals are being taught this basket of lies. Sorry, not sorry.
It's true. It's true.
Basket of lies, and this is the outcome. And it happens every single day.
Yes. In the recovery room, I was praised. What a great baby. What a great mom. He's got such a great latch. He latched for an hour and 45 minutes straight. They transferred him from breast to breast for an hour and 45 minutes. What a great eater, right? My son is 99th percentile for length and weight. My husband is 6'6". He's 22 inches, 10.5 pounds at delivery, and 9 APGAR, and then 5-minute APGAR, also 9. And yet I starved him. I starved my child unknowingly. Despite all my education, despite all my resources, I still starved my child. And it took so many months to be able to say that. But I have to say it. I have to educate other people, because if it happened to me, it can happen to them. And it's happening in real time every single day.
Every single day.
For thousands of children across the United States.
Across the globe. Across the globe. It's not just the United States, across the globe. And the unheard stories are those that are happening in developed countries where there's even less monitoring, even less treatment. This method of promoting breastfeeding is being promoted to parents who don't even have access to hospitals to get that type of monitoring. And then they come in when they're really, really sick and brain injured, and they go on to have cerebral palsy. This is a known problem, and the World Health Organization knows about it, and the CDC and the AAP now know about it as a result of our public awareness campaign. And no one is saying anything to stand up for parents and babies. That's just reality. And I can't believe that this is something we even have to talk about. This is even something that we have to fight for babies to be adequately fed and for parents to be informed of risks that they can prevent.
And it's the supplementation, to your point, Dr. Christie. It's the real world knowledge that supplementation does not end a breastfeeding journey. Supplementation can avoid brain injury. Supplementation can avoid cerebral palsy and all number of complications that will be with the child for the rest of their life.
That's right. Exactly.
In that very critical 24, 48, 72-hour, 96-hour window.
Yes, that's exactly right. For nothing. And it wouldn't be so bad if there was some actual risk to offering the supplement. Of course, there are people who will believe that BS. But to even breastfeeding itself, let's say not the risk of brain injury or all these other things, just to breastfeeding itself, 5 randomized controlled trials show that judicious supplementation of 10 cc's after every breastfeeding session on demand, baby has a chance to get more than they're getting at the breast if they need it. And that has no effect on long-term breastfeeding.
Absolutely. I'm living proof of that statistic.
That's exactly right. And we have been doing this for millennia. And the idea that we are actively discouraging parents from listening to their instincts, their innate instinct to feed their hungry baby, that 5-alarm fire in our brain saying this is wrong. And there are all these professionals who are being indoctrinated to tell us that that's normal and safe until there is a medical emergency. It's not right. And I know that there are many pediatricians, many physicians, many nurses who support our movement, our campaign to right this wrong that has occurred. What do you think we need to do? Well, what can the foundation, society, and the healthcare system do at large to change this?
I think that Fetta's best book and podcast series should be part of every labor and delivery class. It should be in every breastfeeding 101 class. Okay, there should be a plan if breastfeeding doesn't go immediately perfectly right off the get-go. What's the next step? Because I had no next step. It was breastfeeding at the breast, Do not bring your pump supplies to the hospital. Do not bring any formula. Do not bring any donor milk. Do not do those things. Absolutely has to change, because that was the message in Breastfeeding 101 class that I attended with my husband, right, and partner, right, during our hospital tour. That needs to change. There needs to be, this is fed as best. This is what happens when it doesn't go perfectly. You must be educated, just like within every childbirth class is educated. If you do not have the vaginal delivery that you plan for, how do you psychologically, mentally, physically prepare to have a C-section? It should be part of that. It absolutely should be part of that curriculum. In every single Lamaze class, labor and delivery class, breastfeeding 101 class, infant CPR and first aid class. This is fed as best. You need to know what to do. You need to have a plan in place.
That's exactly right. I mean, this is so unbelievably simple. And so if you take every other part of medicine where our oath is to the safety of the patient and to provide informed consent, true informed consent, complete disclosure of the risks and benefits, even as the most minute, rare risk, you have to inform. And somehow with this particular issue, we think that we have the right to hide the number one cause of readmission for term newborns. We're somehow allowed to do that, and it should be illegal.
I would say my advice to a first-time parent or whatever time parent you are is please look at the resources before you go into labor. Please understand that supplementation does not ruin your breastfeeding journey. Supplementation will provide an on-ramp for your child's physical, mental, and emotional success, and your physical, mental, and emotional success. It will keep PPD at bay. Supplementation will keep PPA at bay, and it will not ruin your breastfeeding journey. The statistics are out there. Please educate yourself. Please. The medical system is working on it. There are good people in there with good intentions, but right now it's a problem. It's in a microcosm of a larger problem with the healthcare industry, but you can be your own advocate, and you can walk into the hospital with the education, armed with information, and involve your partner, involve your spouse, because through education, through Fed as Best, you can have a beautiful breastfeeding journey and a wonderful child and keep PPA and PPD at bay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And have that advocate with you, because you don't know what can happen to you medically as a new mom. You could have this plan to advocate for yourself, but if you're impaired because of either medical complications, medications, or just pure exhaustion, you may not have the strength, the emotional and physical strength to be that advocate. And unfortunately, as a result of this system, it has become ingrained in the culture, treat mothers as incapable and to not respect their autonomy. Honestly, I mean, a number of stories of parents being flat out denied, ignored and denied their request for formula for their babies who've been crying nonstop under this system is unbelievable and is so unacceptable. I know no single individual can change it, but as a collective, parents, health professionals, if we say this is wrong and we start raising our voices to it, then it can change. If you speak up, if you complain, if you write a letter, entire hospital policies have changed as a result of a single letter or a single bad outcome in a complaint. If you're loud enough, you can change it immediately for someone else. And you know the pain of that. You understand the idea that this happened to me, it shouldn't have, I'm so mad about it, but this can't happen to another person.
Absolutely. And advocate and get on your hospital review board and make it known. That's what I've done. There are good individuals, there's good people, there's good medical providers who say to you quietly, this is wrong, this needs to change, right? And please don't think that the medical system is against you. Please understand there are good people out there. Dr. Christie, you're a physician. You understand. You live this in real time, okay, with your own experience. So don't feel like you have been left alone by the medical establishment. This is how change evolved. Speaking up, filling out the survey after delivery, and getting involved is so critical. Naming names. If you go into your health app, you will see every single nurse, every single practitioner who signed off, and you can know exactly wherein that happened. Ask your partner if you were medically complicated. Ask your partner what happened at this point. What happened at this point?
Yep. Take notes. I mean, this is so terrible. I tell parents to take notes. You have a feeding log. You can log everything that happened, including how much your baby cried from what time to what time. And God forbid that something bad happens. You have those records that you can have on your own real time when someone came in. I mean, I hate to make it like that, but unfortunately, I've testified in cases where those logs made a big difference. And not just for legal cases, but for your child's safety. My baby has been crying and nursing this long. They have a right to be fed. If someone's denying you, take it up higher. Talk to the charge nurse. Talk to the administrator and call. My child has a right to be fed. And the data supports it. That they are better off being fed than being underfed or unfed.
Yes.
In the pursuit of exclusive breastfeeding. Thank you so much, Tanya.
I got on the hospital review board because of what I wrote. If I didn't have a seat at the table, I would have still, since my parents met during their residency, I still have some friends whose parents practice here, and so I was going to run it up that chain, but I didn't have to, thankfully.
Yeah.
And it has to be part of that. It has to
That's
be part of that. It was one lactation consultant who's also an RN who was award-winning at the hospital who was like, hey, I think your kid has a tongue tie. I think you should really pump. I think you should supplement. I don't think it was just one against the whole system. But I certainly didn't want to name her because you know, she's fighting an uphill battle.
Right.
In that.
Absolutely.
She can't do it alone.
She can't. And there are people who are seeing the problem. They saw it all along, and there are more powerful, more moneyed people doing what they're doing to work against them. The tide is turning, and I just hope it just continues to turn as more people recognize just how wrong it is.
Right. But this tide of information and your hormonal shift, I needed that information in the second trimester, in the third trimester, not 12 hours after delivery.
Oh, exactly. So all those things you said, like you should have your pump, you should have a way to supplement, you have methods of supplementation, a SNS and a syringe.
Yes.
You can do it at the breast if you want. So if you're worried about that nipple confusion, here you go. Here's a different way of doing it. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you said all the things because that's exactly what parents need to hear. Oftentimes they're gaslighted. Oh, you didn't know how to do it. You didn't go to the classes. You didn't educate yourself. And that's why this happened to your baby. And this happens over and over again in papers. They say the same thing and they never say it's because of the education.
Yeah.
It is because of the indoctrination.
And I had all the education,
Yep,
my uncle's
exactly.
my uncle's an OBGYN. He doesn't practice as an OBGYN, but I'm saying how much more medically privileged can you get? Two parents who are retired physicians, right? I took all the classes. I did all the education. I had, my husband and I had been married for 8 years before we welcomed Sam because we wanted my business to get off the ground.
Yes.
Like all of the things, right?
Yeah.
And it still went off the rails. Right?
Yeah.
And it could have been so much worse. Instead of two small blood sugar readings, it could have been jaundice. It could have been hospitalized for 30 days. It could have been, anything. So my husband was actually the one who was like, you need to find an advocacy organization. And I was like, it probably doesn't exist. And then I just tons of research, and I stumbled across, and I had to message you guys, and I had to say this happened. I would love to share the story because I think it's more powerful when it comes from a physician like you. I think it's more powerful when it comes from people who are medically privileged. It comes from people who, if it can happen to us, it can happen to anyone.